Okay, everyone, thank you for coming on in early. That was kind of exciting to see the buildup, the momentum, the excitement, the energy. Very excited to be part of the PSA Her Point of View series. This is a monthly conversation so that everyone can get to know all the amazing women in the sports arena. PSA, Pro Sports Assembly, first of its kind non-for-profit trade association, bringing all the leagues together, which is just so exciting to share everything that we're all doing. You know, historically, we've been going backwards because everyone's been doing the same thing in silos. And sports is sports. You know, we are uniting through the power of sports, such a powerful vehicle, so inspirational, and we have so many incredible role models. And Brittany Boyd, you are one of them. So happy
Thank
to
you.
have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And as you know, being a part of the Pro Sports Assembly Advisory Board, incredibly passionate about the organization. Think that we're going to make a really big impact on our industry, and just looking forward to, accomplishing all of those goals, really lofty goals that we've outlined for our industry. But I'm confident that we're capable and that we're committed. And I really look forward to seeing our hard work really come to life. But
Well,
thanks again for having me, Shelley.
what's amazing about sports? We're one team. You know, we talk about the power of team, and all of us have a role to play on a team. And so when you put the collective players together, you know, on a team, that's when you score the goals, you know, truthfully in every way. And I think that that's what this is all about. We all bring unique perspective, unique value uh, to the game, and I think coming together is pretty exciting. So I'm already getting some fabulous questions for you, but for everyone, let's just introduce you. You are the newest SVP, Senior Vice President of Marketing of the 76ers.
Yes.
And what everyone is so excited about is hearing your journey, in sports, but also in particular about being a woman and a person of color in sports. And of course, HBSE, the parent company, how you've played such a pivotal role. It's a tongue twister in this new 20 million donation to fight social and racial injustices. So can't wait to hear everything. So let's start with just you. Tell us who you are and why this conversation and visibility is so incredibly important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, I'm a wife. I have a husband. We've been married for 6 years. We met at my very first job ever, which was the Dallas Cowboys. And we're both from Texas. So, I'm a long way from home, but loving the East Coast and loving Philadelphia. Secondly, I'm a mommy. So I have a 2-year-old daughter named Carter Ray, and Terrible Twos is real. I'm just realizing that it's real, and apparently no one told me that it continues 3, 4, and 5. So
Oh,
looking
it
forward.
continues. I have three children, 23, 25, and 29. The terrible twos continue in the 20s and the 30s. You know, once a parent, always a parent, but there's nothing like it, truthfully. In
No, yeah, it's
every
been,
moment, even when you think they're terrible, they're actually wonderful.
I know it's like she does something terrible and then she's so cute or sweet. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. But yes, I hear that they don't end, which, no one told me that before we got to this stage. So that's really fun. Also, of course, a friend, a daughter, an avid Pinterester. Spend a lot of time on Pinterest. It's really great. Love to organize. And once upon a time, I really, really enjoyed traveling. Outside of my personal interest and personal life, obviously, have been in the sports industry now for a little over 10 years, journeying from the Dallas Cowboys up to the Brooklyn Nets with Barclays Center, then hopping over to my HBSC family, first with the New Jersey Devils and Prudential Center, and now with the Philadelphia 76ers. So that has been, my journey in a quick stint, of course. And then this conversation in particular is really important to me because, one, I'm a woman. And two, I'm a Black woman. And, I've been given so many opportunities and I've had so many people that have helped me along the way that I do feel, at this point in my career, especially responsible to give back and to help others and to share my journey. And, if there's anything that I can say or do that can help someone else in their journey, like that is what I'm really all about. And really why I think that platforms like these are so important, especially right now, because people have the time to listen in and so many people are using this time to learn and to grow. And so again, if I can be of any help to anyone, like that is what I'm really excited to do.
Well, they're already pouring in tons of comments, which is congratulations, Brittany.
Oh,
And
thank you.
excited for this chat and tons of questions. So I am going to get to them. But let's start with the beginning of your journey. What was your passion for sports? What got you excited about going into sports?
Yeah. So it started really like young because I was a student athlete. I played lots of sports growing up. I stayed really busy. I've always been a busybody. That's like the core of my existence. So, I played a lot of sports. I ended up getting a scholarship to run track and field in Missouri, close to where my dad lived. And then I became involved with this committee called the Student Athlete Advisory Committee for the NCAA. And so every year I would travel to Indy to the headquarters, and this committee was awesome. We planned community engagement events across the NCAA for all student athletes and division championships. We planned events around those championships. We went to the convention floor and voted on legislation that impacted student athletes. But that experience for the 3 years that I served as our national representative for that committee really showed me that behind the scenes business of sport, right? Like I saw the marketing that went behind the community initiatives and the events, and I got to see the legislation piece and the business operations piece. And so when I graduated, I said, I really want to go into sports. I was a management and marketing major. When I went to college, they didn't have sports marketing. So I was management and marketing major. And when I picked the school to get my MBA, I was very intentional of where I went to school because I wanted to be in professional sports. I also, going to school in Missouri for 4 years, I missed Texas. So I chose the University of Texas, Arlington, because it was right in the middle of the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Texas Rangers. And I said, I am going to land.
Sid Marshall.
Yes, at Marshall. I'm going to land one of these internships. Like someone is going to take me. So I applied to all three teams. And my top choice being a Dallas native and growing up a Cowboys fan, especially in that time when, the Cowboys were on top of the world, I landed my internship with the Dallas Cowboys. I was in stadium operations and event operations. I actually came on right when we were opening what was then Cowboys Stadium, now AT&T Stadium. So it was the inaugural season. It was crazy. And then again, got really fortunate when one of the ladies that I worked with realized that sports wasn't for her. She was an event coordinator. The hours were nuts. She, didn't really that wasn't her niche. And she realized it pretty quickly. And so within 3 or 4 months of my internship, this role became open. So I was like, I'm going to apply. My dad was like, you have 3 months experience.
Yeah, and so that's called believing in yourself, girl.
Yes. So I applied. My director there, who's still there, is an incredible mentor to this day, Paul Turner. I didn't get the job the first time around. They offered it to somebody from the North Carolina Panthers.
How dare they?
Yeah. And so this was really pivotal in my career because, a lot of people probably would have been, I was disappointed, yes, but a lot of people might have been disappointed. It might have went into work the next day, with a different attitude or something of that nature, or would have said, you know what, it's not my time. I need more experience. But instead what I did is I went into his office the next day and I said, hey, can you give me some pointers? This is my first time interviewing for a real job. So what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What can I focus on? How can I help until she gets here? I've been shadowing Carrie, for her 2 weeks, and I can take over these projects if you need me to. when, you know, North Carolina Panthers lady gets here, I'm happy to help her in any way possible. I was super positive. I was super proactive in taking on initiatives. I, you know, took on even more, and, you know, Carrie did leave, and there was like 2 weeks before this other lady was supposed to come where I was doing the job. And then the lady called and said, I don't want to move to Texas. I don't want to move to Texas. And so my director came to me and was like, you have been doing the role. You have shown great initiative. You have, you know, really stepped up, and like, we want to offer you this job. And so that was my first job out of college. I was ecstatic. I was over the moon. It was really, really exciting. So I became an event coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. I spent 3 seasons there, and then transitioned to New York. And again, the theme, I think, in my journey is just being really intentional. I was dating a guy from the Dallas Cowboys who relocated to the New York Yankees. He's now my husband, so it paid off. And I would come to visit, and I said, I'm never moving to New York. I'm a Southern girl. But after visiting a few times, I fell in love. I wanted to move there. And so we hosted a conference at Cowboy Stadium. It was International Association for Venues Manager. We were the hosts. So I had access to everyone who was coming. And, you know, I had been assigned, you know, tours and different things of that nature to host all of these conference attendees that were coming to Dallas into our stadium. I highlighted everyone that was from New York. I connected with the Giants, with the Jets, with the Nets, with the Garden. I connected with the Tennis Association. I connected with the Yankees. All, again, you know, connections and friends now in the industry that I still have today. But I made
I think Brittany has
one of the gentlemen I happened to meet was David Anderson, and he was the senior vice president of AEG. He was opening all new arenas around the world. He had just done the Mercedes-Benz Arena in Shanghai, the O2 Arena in London, and now he was on this Brooklyn project to bring Barclays Center to life. So I stalked him. I sent him follow-up emails.
No for an answer, that's for sure.
No, I kept in contact with him. When I came to New York the next time to visit my what was then boyfriend, I had coffee with him. And while I had coffee with him, I asked him, what are some of the pain points? What are you looking to do with the new arena? What are your objectives? What are some of your biggest goals? And then I went home and I spent a whole weekend at a Starbucks, and I put together a 30, 60, 90-day plan and said, hey, if you pick me to be your premium services manager, I can bring this experience to life for you. So he hired me and told me to stop calling him until he was ready to bring me to Brooklyn. So I moved to Brooklyn in 2012 and started with the Nets, opened that arena, stayed with them for 3 seasons before jumping over to Prudential Center and New Jersey Devils, and ultimately my HBSC family that I have been a part of for the past 6 years. I started there as our director of guest services. And really the impetus for me jumping over was I was looking for growth and opportunity. And I'll say, you know, especially in the sports industry, opportunities don't come about all the time. And, you know, a lot of people in teams, they stick with teams for the brand. And like, I would encourage everyone to look at your own personal growth and your own opportunities, and you go where the opportunity is, and not necessarily get married to a brand in particular. So I jumped over to take a director role. I was ready for more responsibility. I wanted to lead a team. Scott O'Neill, who's the CEO then and still now, had come from the Garden, and I had so many friends tell me how amazing he was. Leadership is very important as well when you make decisions. So I jumped over as the director of guest services and event experience. And you know, then I was thinking I wanted to work my way to general manager of an arena, but I decided that it was time for a shift. I didn't want the other half of the responsibility of GM. I didn't want to do the engineering and the operations and the electricity and plumbing, which is all very important things, but as I continued to get curious and learn different components of what it would take to get me there, I said, I don't know if that's for me. So I expressed, again, very intentional, I expressed to my direct manager, as well as Scott, our CEO, and our president, Hugh, that I want to learn more about the business side and I want to get involved. And so I started to shadow our vice president of business operations, our EVP of business operations, started helping her on projects, and then got transitioned to vice president of business operations. And in that role, it was about revenue maximization, company culture, communication efficiency across all of our teams that fall under HBSC. The year I went to business operations was the year that we were actually merging all the companies together. So we needed some extra support in our business ops area. And so I stepped into that role for 3 years, and then expressed I want to be team president one day. I love this stuff. I love every department. I love the impact we're making in our community. I love building a company culture for all of the team members. And so, I transitioned into a vice president of corporate partnerships role so I could get some revenue experience. Spent a couple of years there. And then this past year, about 2 months ago, they offered me the role to be our senior vice president of marketing. Very long story. I'm sorry. 10 years is a long time to sum up. But yeah, so that's how I currently got here. And the thought is really, of course, it's strategic positioning for our company, and what we need right now. But it's also, and I'm so grateful for our leadership giving me learning and growth opportunities that will better position me to prepare to be a team president one day. There's revenue, there's marketing, there's business operations, there's events. So I think that this marketing role really kind of puts the last really big piece that I need to learn and dig into, to set myself up for my future goal.
Listen, first of all, I love your energy. And so
Thank you.
I think that is incredible. I love your positivity. And I love that you also believe you can do whatever you can imagine. And you use the word opportunity. I don't think that you waited for an opportunity. I think you made the opportunity happen for yourself, which is so clear. I just had a conversation with Jeannie Buss, and what she said was her expertise in the event business really helped her so much, when she took on operations, to really understand all of the pieces. Which is so
Absolutely.
incredible. Your whole 10-year journey, you've touched all different aspects of the business of sport, which is helping you be who you are today and jump the market. You are always creating your next move that is based on the foundational pieces of what led you to where you are today. I just have to ask you something because I want to go back to year one.
Yes.
You talked about you didn't get the job, and you marched yourself in and you said, what did I do wrong? What
Mm-hmm.
did you say?
Oh, this is a great one. He told me, so during my interview, I actually played into my weaknesses. Well, one, he said, it's clear, we know your experience. We know that you have 3 whole months of experience. But Brittany, yeah, he said, but Brittany, let me tell you something. When you go interview, whether it's here again or anywhere else, you never play into your weaknesses. I would caveat, even though I only have 3 months of experience, I've learned our payroll and scheduling system, and I know how, the standard operating procedures work. I would tell all of the things that I could do really well, but I would lead with my inherent insecurity, or try to make sure that I was clearing that out of his head. But he was like, lead with the strong points. The weaknesses, nobody needs to know that. And quite frankly, when I went for my next role with Barclays Center as premium services manager from a coordinator, you would have thought that I ran Cowboys Stadium the way that I presented myself in my second round of interviews. You would have thought I might've been president or something there, because I was I started this. If you have any touch point in any project and you can speak to it and you're confident that you can somehow work with a team to reinvent it, you don't have to lead it to speak to it during an interview. You can talk about your experience not just being your own projects, but like what your company did prior, and any way that you touched that process, you can add that to your story. I think it's really important. So yeah, the way he told me to position myself and make sure that I was not playing into my weaknesses at all, was really, really important. So that was his biggest tip that I remember that I carried on with me
Very good tip.
to the next interview
Really good tip.
process.
I heard something recently when people go to marriage counseling, they always talk about what's wrong, which only makes you angrier versus
Hmm.
focusing on what's right. And what's very clear is none of us are perfect. We don't have it all, but we do have a secret sauce. We do have a value. What would you say your greatest strength is?
I would say my greatest strength is a combination of being proactive and being positive. One thing that I really believe in is that intangibles, and if my journey says nothing else, is that intangibles really matter. You know, there's so many technical skills in all of these verticals that I've crossed over, right? And right now in this moment, I'm not the world's greatest marketer, okay? Because, I'm newer to this role. I'm learning, I'm growing. I take all these things from my past and build onto that. But I'm not the world's greatest marketer, but I'm positive, I'm proactive, I'm going to learn. I can lead a team, I can inspire a team, I can support a leadership team that is an expert in these different areas, and then putting that all together and collaborating, that can lead to some really great results, right? And so that's what I've done over the past probably 6 years in my career as I've jumped verticals. It's really about the intangibles and how you manage and lead people, and not necessarily having to be the one that has all of the answers in that moment. You'll get the answers, and quite frankly, I probably never really want to be an expert in anything, because that means like I'm not learning, I'm not growing, I'm not pushing myself. I'm in a position where I've mastered it. And so you can get comfortable rather than continuing to be curious and seek out new information or challenge yourself or others. So I would say my greatest quality is definitely just being really positive and bringing energy and being able to inspire and lead people, as well as being proactive, whether that comes from like learning and getting curious and digging in, or if it is about taking my next step and building a plan and milestones and how I'm going to get there. So positive and proactive.
Well, I think first of all, I'm going to start peppering in. I have so many questions to ask you, but so many questions are coming in. And so it's all about all of you in this conversation. So I'm going to go to them. So Felicia says your energy is contagious. You're right, Felicia. It definitely is.
Thank you.
Lori says you also had the courage to put yourself out there to learn more, which is incredible.
Yes.
Oh, here. What I love is that your journey shatters the old belief that you have to be in a certain role for years to learn it before you can grow or cross over into something else. True that.
Absolutely. One quick note on that too, that I tell a lot of my mentees, because I think this is important to that exact comment, is so many people think that they have to know what they want to do 10 years from now to map out how they need to grow in the immediate future. And I would say the same way I was like, I'm going to be a GM, pie in the sky in 5, 10 years, whatever. And here's what I need to do to get there. And now, and I had to shift that and say, now I want to be like, it's okay to commit now and connect the dots later, because I guarantee you that like all of the dots are going to connect. And the longer that you procrastinate on at least committing and figuring out what your next milestone is, the longer you stay stagnant in that same position. And you wonder like, why am I not growing? Or like, what do I want to do next? So I think that long-term goal and committing to it is key to then determining what your short-term goals are, and being comfortable with like that might shift, and that's okay, because guess what I've been doing for the last 5 years is still going to be applicable. It's going to be transferable, and it's going to make me into a better professional and a better leader for whatever team I decide to go to.
Well, I also say sometimes I don't really know when people ask me to write a 5-year plan. I don't know
No
what
idea.
it is. I don't even know what tomorrow is, but when I get there and it feels right, I'm going for it, and I'm not
Absolutely.
afraid to take that on. Let me give you a few more, and then I'm going to get to some questions that I have. But Bridget says career paths in sports are rarely a straight line. So great to hear, Brittany, your progression in various roles in different departments. Power of connection. Thank you, Leisha. Laura. So we got to get to Laura Dixon. We want to hear all about the catalysts that have led to each transition along the way. So was there a cataclysmic moment? I call them heartbeat moments. Were there role models, that you had? Was there any kind of catalyst for what that next move was going to be for you?
I'll say first and foremost, my catalyst, I've always been just really intrinsically motivated. And so kind of going back to that comment, like I never want to feel like the expert somewhere because then I'm not learning and growing. Like that's kind of been my catalyst for all of my shifts and changes and jumps and movements. And so even, when I was with the Cowboys or the Nets, like I would have been perfectly content, if I stayed within those organizations, if I had opportunities to grow into a different position at a different level or to learn more. But when those opportunities aren't right in front of me, like one thing is like I'm not going to wait. Like I want to learn and I want to grow and I can't sit still. I've always been a busybody. So I would say catalyst is really like just intrinsic motivation to want to learn, grow, do more. I get my hands into everything, good or bad. And like that's just a part of who I am. And I love it. I feed off of that energy of just learning and growing and doing. But then I will say that I could not have done that without the support of so many mentors, sponsors, allies, and so forth. Like I mentioned, Paul Turner, who was my first boss at the Dallas Cowboys. Like he taught me so many things that I still think about and carry on with me every day, including like how you position yourself and forget about the weakness stuff. Like focus on your strengths, right? And when they ask you about your weakness, tell them about your strengths. So there's that. And then jumping to Brooklyn, David Anderson, the AEG headquarter, GM that he became a really great friend and mentor along the way as well. And then, even outside of the companies I've worked for, Natera Holloway, who is one of the very first Black female vice presidents for the NFL league office. Her and I were connected with one of my Cowboys colleagues when I moved up here, and she, from the start of my New York journey, has been right by my side, and I confide in her. I ask her advice, and that's a mentor, right? Like your mentor is someone you say, I'm in this position, what do I do? Or what would you do? And then, what I found at HBSC, in addition to a lot of other mentors, is true sponsorship. And sponsorship are those that are in these executive roles. They're in the rooms and have seats at the tables when decisions are being made and will advocate for you. And I have incredibly strong sponsors and our CEO, Scott, our president, Hugh Weber. And so I'm incredibly fortunate for all of those people along the way who have given me opportunities and who have listened to me and given me really good advice just based on their own journey. And I'll tell you, it's a mix of men, it's a mix of women, it's a mix of white, it's a mix of Black. And I also emphasize how important peer mentorship is. I think that peer mentorship has gotten me through some of my hardest days because there's, even with some of those relationships, there's some things you might not feel comfortable talking about, but with peers, you can talk about everything. They're living it, they're breathing it. They're really smart people, by the way. They're going to be the next CEO, and they're going to be a part of your network. And you guys are going to do deals together later in life. But in that moment when you need the most, like your peers can certainly help with sound advice and talking you through situations and helping with your overall growth in your career.
Well, I always say the best advice comes from people who've been there, done that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
bites of advice. There's no one perfect mentor. There's no one perfect sponsor. We live and learn and grow and breathe and evolve, and our curiosity from people that are around us that can give us real life, experience advice. You have a question that came in for advice. Piece of advice for women of color and women in this industry. Your best advice.
One of my favorite quotes is that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And it's Eleanor Roosevelt. And I tell that to women, to Black women, to younger professionals in general. I think that, a lot of times as women or women of color, Yes, there is a lot of disparity, and yes, there's not always equity, and there's, um, some of it's not always intentional, but it happens and it's real, and like our feelings are valid. But I do think that there's a subset or a percentage of some of those thoughts and feelings that we put in our own minds, and we allow those thoughts and feelings to control what we do and how we move forward or not. And so I would say my biggest advice is like, you have to give yourself confidence. You can't wait for a mentor or sponsor or someone to tell you that you're great. Like, you have to believe it. And if you don't believe it, like, there's lots of things in your control to help you get there. Read, learn, find mentors and sponsors that can give you advice. Like, you have to take your own journey in your own hands, and not let anyone make you feel inferior.
I learned something recently, about the imposter syndrome. And what I learned was both men and women actually have those voices in their head. Just
For
men
sure.
ignore them. Men ignore them, and women's the voices get louder, they get amplified.
Yeah.
My girlfriend Wendy Clark says you got to shut that bitch up in your head. Shut that voice up in your head and move on and fake it till you make it. But most importantly, it's believing in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. And so when we get to your job now, SVP of the 76ers, and the parent company HBSE, and prioritizing branding, and you talked about branding and branding teams and enhancing game day experience. What's your role in that, and how do you create these individual brand identities but under a corporate umbrella?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm responsible for all things marketing. It includes our branding, our creative teams, our content and social media, general marketing operations, as well as broadcast, game presentation, digital,
Just
and
a few things, just saying.
just a few things, and community, social responsibility, youth marketing initiatives, influencer strategy. Like, all of those elements that make up our complete core brand fall under my purview, so to speak. And so I would say, and this year in particular is different than any other, right, because of this global pandemic that we're going through. So I'll say our strategies have definitely had to shift on how we continue to grow our brand, build our brand. But I'll first start by saying that, on where our strategy didn't shift, right? Sports teams alike across the country are cornerstones in their communities. And us specifically, like, we value helping others and community, and making sure that we are there for our fans when they need us most. And so I'll say, right after the pandemic, that is what we focused on. It wasn't about our social media rankings and brand index or any of those KPIs that we look at every day on dashboards. It was about, like, how can we be there for the people that need us most, people that root for us? Like, how can we help root for them? And so a lot of our initiatives went around COVID relief and recognizing frontline workers and feeding the hungry and providing internet for students who didn't have access to internet. And that was critical and key. That was our top priority. For the NBA, it then shifted very quickly into, we're going to return to play, but in a scenario that no one has ever imagined. We're going to go and we're going to be in a bubble in Orlando, and you're not going to have any access. So then our strategy shifted on, like, how do we create access? How do we bring our game day experience that's in Orlando to Philadelphia? And so we then, had to get really creative. We had to push ourselves. It was a great opportunity to, like, reinvent and rethink everything that we did on a game day, and brought it to life digitally, or did different activations. Our t-shirt toss, we rented big double deck buses and rode through the city and tossed out t-shirts. We're like, we're still going to do a t-shirt toss. Our return to play campaign was Summer 7-6, because when have we played in summer? That wasn't playoffs. And so how can we again lean into this, COVID relief and inspirational tone of, sunshine is on the horizon, Summer 7-6. So we did a lot of initiatives around just, like, how do we make Philadelphia feel a part of this experience, even though our team is so far away. And so we did a lot of great things, and we saw a lot of great success. And what it also did was pushed us into what is being called the third age of sport. So, like, in the first age, it was recreational, it was for fun. And the second age, we built businesses around it, sponsorship and ticket sales. And it was all about the brick and mortar. And in the third age of sport, everything is digital and everything is different. It's packaged differently, it's distributed differently. And, you know, everyone knows that, and everyone has been inching in that direction. And what COVID did, one of the silver linings is that it accelerated us into that space and really pushed us to reinvent ourselves in this digital landscape. And what I'll say is, once we're back up and running and in our arena and have all of those assets, like everything we've built on the digital side will be incremental. And so we've uncovered so much opportunity for the future. Well, we'll need to recover a bit, but like we've uncovered so much opportunity. And so that's exciting. That's really exciting.
The third age of sports. And, I think that the digital is a pivot with an or for now, but what you're saying is when we move forward and are back to live events, it'll be a new and from access, from equity, from an accessible and an equitable perspective. I mean, it's opened up a whole new, engagement strategy. I think you're not a marketer. I think you're an engager, because everything you're talking about is bringing me through the Zoom. I just wanna give you a big hug. You have someone that is asking also, what do you think the marketing trends are that you're specifically paying attention to right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it all goes back to exactly what we were talking about. And it's engaging and connecting, and bringing everything digital. Like what you said, Shelly, is so true in regards to equity as well. I think Adam Silver said it, but 1% of all NBA fans will ever make it to a game. Right. And so I assume that's the same for 1% of all Philadelphia 76ers fans will actually make it to a game. And we've spent so much time and resources marketing to get people in the building. And it's, great, right? We have one of the biggest fan bases in all of the NBA. But now we're looking at the other 99%, and we're engaging and connecting with them. We're giving them access to our game experience through a second screen, either our app or social media. And so that is an incredible opportunity. And that's the trend, the second screen experience, more digital integration, more captivating content. Those are the marketing trends. And so now that we're moving into return to play in less than 1 week for the NBA, but now we're back in Philadelphia. We're back in our home arena. We won't have fans, but our focus right now is creating home court advantage. We won't have fans, but guess what? All of the things that our game experience is known for, all of our traditions, our bell ringing, and our anthem singers, and the flags that we wave, and all of the energy that we create that gives us this incredible home court advantage, we're going to do. We're going to have stages. We're going to have live action. Like, a lot of the production that you see right now with no fans is kind of just like a game, but we are going to create an experience. We're going to bring, I would say, in addition to the experience made for TV, is we're going to bring our fans closer than courtside, on their screens.
Front row. We're all sitting in the front row.
Exactly.
Really amazing. Yeah, Bridget is saying 100%. Brittany is giving gems to all of us today. We should all strive to be lifelong learners, and Brittany is showing us how she embodies that. Thank you, Bridget, for that comment.
Thank you, Bridget.
And then you have another one. You have such positive energy. How you've dealt with other leaders at the table. Oh, how have you dealt with other leaders at the table that may indirectly made you feel like you're not welcome? Oh God. Anonymous, share who you are. It's such a great question, because I've been, at a table that I've been, very consciously told, come, but you might not feel welcome. And, what do? You go, and then you bring your girlfriends with you so that you make your own party. What have you done, Brittany, in those instances?
Yeah, again, I lean back into my quote, like, nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. And I haven't had those feelings. Like, I definitely can see if someone is cutting me off, or, if someone isn't necessarily respecting an opinion that I have, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to repeat it. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to follow up with the idea on an email. I would say that one thing that I've really done tactically is that when I notice that there's people who, don't seem as welcoming toward me is like, get to know them, right? Like I have built relationships with the people within organizations that everyone else says are most difficult, because everyone is it's everyone's a person. Everyone has something that makes them tick or not. And once you figure out them as a person and how they work and how they like to be communicated to, and you almost build them as an ally on your side, especially if it's one of those people that everyone's like, oh my gosh, they are the worst, I don't want to work with them, and you're their one kind of friend, confidant. It helps, and it helps you to get things done. So like, when you're building your kind of cheer section, like, yes, you are going to naturally click with a lot of people that you work with. The people that you don't naturally click with, especially if you need to interact and get things done with them, you have to build a relationship. And that is the only way that you're going to continue to be successful, and especially at different levels. Because, the more that you grow within your organization, the more people that you have to work with and have integrated projects with to get things done. And so it really ultimately, like, your success relies on your relationships with other people in your organization.
That's what it's about. And, sometimes, first of all, haters will hate. So just disregard because you can't
Yep.
turn. But oftentimes, it's what you said. I call it proximity shift. Spend 5 minutes with someone you don't know. You're going to learn a hell of a lot. You might not end up best friends, but you are going to grow. You're going to learn. You're going to stretch yourself in ways you never imagined. And sometimes people are just shy or they come across cold. But when you just spend some time with them, they're actually lovely when you invite them into your world, and welcome those that haven't been welcomed. It will go a long way. You have from Leisha, I'm so inspired by this conversation.
Aw, thank you, Leisha. Hi.
Turning
I love
challenges
Leisha.
into opportunity is a true skill. You have that skill. Here's another one from Lori. How are you continuing to develop your leadership skills?
Yes, that's a great one, because again, you have to just continue to learn and grow. So, one thing that I'll say that I listen to every morning that I absolutely love is the Justin Sua Increase Your Impact podcast. It is 3 minutes. So I'm not like a technically an audio learner, right? Like I have to kind of like read, write. I'm a highlighter, I'm a note taker. And so when everyone talks about these phenomenal podcasts, I'm like, I always lose them after like 10 minutes. I'm like, wait, what did they say? So this Justin Sua, our president for the New Jersey Devils, actually recommended it, Jake Reynolds, and it is incredible. It's 3 minutes and it is so impactful. He always gives really great takeaways. It's very inspiring. So that's one quick tactical thing that I do just about every day in the morning when I'm getting ready. I listen to 2 or 3 of those, and I have great kind of takeaways. Sometimes I share them with my team and ask.
Share us a takeaway.
Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think which one is my favorite. Oh, so my favorite one that I've shared with my team and we've done exercises is called Pace Setters. I think it's like episode 1057, 67, one of those. Anywho,
Not
it's
that
called
you're detail oriented or anything.
and it's called Pace Setters. Maybe if you Google like Justin Sua Pace Setters, it'll pop up. I think it's 1067. But ultimately what he talks about is this guy that went out to with a mission to run the fastest marathon ever, right? And in order to break the record, he needed every mile to be 4:24 or less. And so he built this team around him of like the world's fastest people to train with him, to be his rabbits. But and he accomplished the goal, right? But like it was like time, commitment, strategy, intentionality, and then like the team around him had to be just as high level focused and intentional as he was. And so the takeaway there is like, how do we get everyone to a 4:34, right? How do we get everyone within our teams to do their part of running 4:34? Because if everyone does that, if everyone does their 4 minutes and 34 seconds, if everyone's dedicated to training and keep and learning and being committed to accomplishing their subset of the overall goal, like as a team, we'll accomplish our goal. And so that is one that I've used with like my leadership team. I love that one. There's some other ones on some things that we've talked about today. Oh, 1097. I was so close. Thanks, Felicia. But that one's one of my faves that I've used with some of my teams.
Oh, you got every letter, every number right except one. That was pretty impressive. I have to say, especially since I put you so on the spot of, okay, what was your favorite one? Bam, you just came up with it. Best advice for the next generation of women of color on navigating the sports industry.
Yeah, so really passionate about, women of color specifically because of, who I am and what I represent. And so I'll just say with that, I did start with a coworker from the Nets, Black Women in Sports and Entertainment. It's on Instagram. We don't have like a full page, but what we do is really about like engaging, empowering the next generation, and really just, being that support system that you need, because there are certain problems, like there's definitely like challenges that you can face, as a woman, and then there's separate or incremental challenges that you face as a Black woman. Like intersectionality is real, and so we created that group to be a support and a support system, a network to normalize some of those issues, to have those candid conversations where you're not necessarily explaining yourself. You're in a group where people just get it. They just get it, what it means to like think about how I'm going to wear my hair to work tomorrow, like little things. Thanks, Kelly. Yes, be wise. So we have events like once a month, and we have different topics of conversation. And I think that's really impactful because, it's needed. And so my advice would really be to like, again, find your support group. You need to, I think normalizing issues definitely helps with that feeling of, inferiority or second guessing yourself, because then it's like, wait, there's a lot of other people going through this. And also, look, these people are overcoming it, they're succeeding, and so can I. So, when you see it, you can be it. And so I would say find your network, find your people, find the people that get you and understand you, and that can be examples of what you can be, as well as people who you can be an example for. So that would be my advice.
I think that is just so right. Here you go from a vet. Brittany, you are amazing. Love your
Thank
story. You're
you.
so inspiring. People asking for the recording, so I am sure we will post it on PSA, copies of everything. Um, Tell everybody, because this is such a big initiative as well, what the Sixers and HBSC are doing. You've committed $20 million to fighting social and racial injustices. What role did you play? Why is this so important? And what are you doing?
Absolutely, absolutely. I am incredibly proud of the $20 million commitment from our managing partners. I have been on our diversity and inclusion committee for a little over 2 years now. So it's not necessarily, this commitment is new, but our commitment as a whole and as an organization to diversity is not new, right? And so we're extremely excited to see all of these other organizations popping up and making corporate statements and commitments, because we're like, hey, join the party. This is great. So I've been on the committee since its inception. I've been a chair on the committee, and just incredibly proud to see it come to this point where we are putting, dollars behind and a strategy. And we've hired a chief diversity officer, and like we're putting resources behind it. We're putting strategy behind it, and we're going to take incremental action to the actions that we've already taken. And so what it is, it's really 4 key pillars that this $20 million commitment over 5 years is going to go toward. The first is revitalizing Black communities, both in Philadelphia and Newark, where our New Jersey Devils play. The second is in and around impacting Black-owned businesses. And with that is a program that I'm especially excited for and helping to bring to life, called our Buy Black Marketing Partnership Program. We are going to be awarding 2 to 4 businesses in each market, with a full-blown like sponsorship package, like the same thing that we're doing for our Fortune 500 partners. We're going to sit with them. We're going to do a needs analysis. We're going to learn their KPIs. We're going to figure out how our marketing assets can help drive and impact their business. And then we're going to activate. And I just can't wait to see that come to life. I think the impact is going to be tremendous. And it's something that we're committed to doing over the next 5 years. So we're going to ultimately end up working with several Black-owned businesses in each of our communities, and hopefully, sustaining and growing those businesses, because, there was already a ton of disparity prior to COVID, and COVID has added to that gap. And so we want to do our part in trying to close the gap. The third pillar is in around amplifying and promoting the things that we've been amplifying and promoting, right? Education, equal opportunity, access, education, all of those things. And in addition to our players and amplifying their voices, we have these huge platforms across our sports industries, and we can use them to make a difference in the world. And so we're committed to doing that. And then the fourth pillar being continuing to create a diverse and inclusive work environment at HBSC. We cannot save the world and not save our own team members, right? And again, this is something we've been committed to for a while. So we have a ton of great programs, trainings, and different things in place, but we're committed to continuing to do that and to see the growth in our diversity numbers, which are incredible already. 25% women in vice president or over positions in our company. Like it's phenomenal what we've done. Our numbers for people of color and ethnicity have grown over 20% over the past few years. Like we are committed. We are putting the resources and the policies and the procedures behind it to make it happen. And I can't wait to see where we take it, because I know that it's going to be fantastic.
Well, listen, I know that we are in good hands. You are a girl of action. You don't just talk about what you're going to do. You walk the talk. You are bold. You are brave. You are Black. You are badass.
Thank you.
And I would love for all of us to, we're going to play a PSA video right now, PSA Pro Sports Assembly. Everyone know it. You're going to hear a lot about it from the work that we collectively that we're going to collectively do together to advance diversity in sports across the board. Thank you, everyone, for being such active participants.
Yes, thank you guys so much.
We are so excited, and let's play a PSA video now. So good, so good. And representation matters. When you think about in highlight reels, only 4% of highlight reels dedicated to women in sports, and all of a sudden we are seeing such diversity, in our industry. So thank you for leading the way, Brittany. You are a role model and inspiration to all, and you walk the talk. PSA all the way. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe.
Thank you, guys.